Доброго ранку, шановні.
Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. We are glad to welcome you at the event of the New Europe Center initiative, which is dedicated to the 3Cs initiative. There are many political events inside the country and outside it in September this year. Now the 3Cs initiative summit is being held last year. The summit was held in Warsaw. The year before, the summit took place in Dubrovnik. Now, the venue is Romania. We would like to talk what this initiative means for Ukraine. We know that at the first summit in Dubrovnik, Ukraine didn't delegate its representative, although Ukraine was invited. There were some doubts after that. Last year, the initiative of non-member EU states was already impossible. The rules of the game changed in this, let's say, club. We have here the highest level speakers today at our briefing. We will talk what we can expect from this event in the framework of the initiative, which was seen in Ukraine at the renaissance of the Baltic Black Sea Alliance. So our speakers today, the extraordinary and plenipotentiary Ambassador of Romania to Ukraine, Cristian-Leon Turcanu, and Foreign Policy Advisor to the Chairperson of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, Ostap, Kryvdyk, and we invited the ministries representatives, but they didn't come here. I would like to give the floor to the analyst of New Europe Center, Tatiana Levanyuk. She prepared the policy brief on the 3Cs initiative. Good afternoon. I would like to outline the key aspects which we highlight and cover in our policy brief as to the 3Cs initiative and Ukraine's opportunities in it. 3 years ago, when the initiative started, Ukraine understood that this is an idea reviving Pilsudski plans of Baltic Black Sea Alliance. But this initiative differs if it had the Baltic Black Sea Union like Pilsudski format, then Belarus would be present. Today, the 3Cs initiative, first of all, is an economic and infrastructure project, but not political. Its goal is to strengthen union of Eastern European countries which are members of EU with the help of transport infrastructure and economic projects. The initiative, 3Cs initiative is supported actively by the USA. It is confirmed by positive statements of of US politicians. Moreover, you know that the Warsaw Summit saw Donald Trump as an observer, and of course there's added weight to TSI. On the one hand, the unity of this initiative was strengthened. On the other hand, that there could be some division between two Europes. And for example, Germany, which is number one trade partner of all the countries members, demonstrated restrained reaction to this initiative. But the important goal of this initiative, what the stated in the statement of Germany. Germany decided to take part in as an observer in the Bucharest summit, and stated its interest in the initiative, but whether the initiative would become more viable, it is hard to say. But Germany paid attention to this initiative, whether this means interest. This is the other question. Maybe this is just respect to the president of Romania, who is of German origin. We will see this with time. It is important to say that the USA, besides the support of the project, TSI project, which is an alternative to the Nord Stream 2, the other factor is returning to the region for the USA and strengthening U.S. influence. You know that this strengthens political and economic ties in the North and Eastern Europe of the USA. Also, 16+1 format, you know, it demonstrates interests of China, which is ready to actively invest in certain projects of TSI. After the Warsaw Summit on July 3rd this year, the first Regions Summit of TSI took place, where the intergovernmental cooperation is supposed to become also cooperation between regions, not only official representatives, but also Ukraine and Moldova. Not only official members of TSI could take part in the initiative of regions. Also, integration, strengthening, and in the Carpathian macro region, where Carpathian Summit took place on transport infrastructure project. So the cooperation inside the initiative depends on political will of the member countries and their opportunities to attract investment. The project via Carpathia depends on external investments only. As concerns participation of Ukraine, we should say that there are not many opportunities. It is the energy project on Polish-Ukraine interconnector. The investors into this project are Ukrtransgaz and energy system. It is for 8 billion cubic meters of gas. This is only one specific project being implemented now. It could be seen at the bilateral level. Among potential energy projects, we should name the Energy Bridge project and orientation of Khmelnytsk power plant. We also should mention the statement of Romanian Transgas operator that one more interconnector could be established in TSI initiative scope. Ukraine is present in the largest Via Carpathia project of TSI. This is the state main, which will unite the ports from Saloniki to Klaipeda. Ukraine in October last year signed relevant contract with the Ministry of Infrastructure of Poland on cooperation within the scope of this project, and the first steps started. The feasibility study, investment study were conducted, and the Gdańsk-Go highway project is another project which is more specific than Verkhovna. Also, our Ministry of Infrastructure and Ukravtodor are responsible for this, and last year Ukravtodor, first in the history of Ukraine, signed the contract with the Chinese company as to the reconstruction of one of the parts of this mains. We should also mention potential projects, waterway E40, and this project was proposed previously, but it was supported again in TSI initiative. Everything is on the level of discussion only so far. As concerned the telecommunications and digital technologies, we should mention that there are no large-scale projects on the plan, so no proposals as to the opportunity to engage other countries were not made, but at the summit in Bucharest, at least Romania and Poland plan to stir up the cooperation in telecommunications and to offer some new projects also. And the well-known institute, Kostyuszka Institute, based in Poland, is engaged. It is supported by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Poland, and it has the portfolio on digital component under TSI initiative. So as a result, I can make some recommendations as to the next steps for Ukraine in TSI initiative. First of all, the member countries have the approach dominating the political component. If it is strengthened, it would bring to more conflictability. So the observer status of Ukraine, if the statement of such non-allied status will be pronounced by Ukraine, it would be good. And also priority projects should be identified. The use of any opportunity should be used by Ukraine. For example, Interparliamentary Assembly, Digital Forum, Regions Forum, Ukraine can take part in them. We should also mention that dividing the difference, we should demonstrate the difference between 3Cs initiative and intermedium idea. This 3Cs initiative is economic and infrastructure project aimed at economic integration of its member countries and strengthening their importance in the European Union. Coordination between the ministries and agencies engaged in the 3Cs initiative, promoting Ukrainian interests in this initiative, coordination between business structures, NGOs, and governmental agencies which are responsible or interested in promoting Ukraine's interests is seen as relevant, and especially businesses after the first business forum will be very important. we should mention the use of opportunities proposed by the initiative in the scope of Carpathian microregion, opportunities for Ukraine of cooperation on the level of Carpathian microregion is very interesting for Ukraine. This concerns the new regional project where Ukraine can be engaged in TSI projects, and as concerns internal reforms, domestic reforms of the country in the eyes of European partners, if our reforms in energy, transport infrastructure and business environment will be demonstrated to European partners, then the higher will be our participation share in this TSI project. Thank you. I think that the policy brief by Tatiana is the most comprehensive study into this aspect, into this initiative. Now, I would like to give the floor to the extraordinary and plenipotentiary ambassador of Romania to Ukraine, Cristian-Leon Turcanu.
So obviously, your country had the biggest impact on the agenda formation, and you are probably aware already of what we can see as an outcome of this two-day event. And last but not least, thank you very much for taking your time for taking part in this presentation amid these very busy days. So you can use my mic.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here. And thank you, Tatiana, for such a wonderful policy brief, which is actually very detailed, and it gives us a very good overview of what the 3Cs initiative is and means. Before I begin, I would just make one little remark about the introduction. The results of the game were set in Dubrovnik. They haven't changed. And that brings us to a very political initiative called the 3Cs Initiative, which gathers 12 EU member states. And this initiative is a project on its own. It is a project that should not be confused or confounded with the other C-related, more old idea. And indeed, this year, Romania is hosting not only the summit of the 3Cs initiative, but also the first business forum. Now, the first business forum of the 3Cs initiative is a new idea, an idea that was launched recently, an idea that was embraced by all members of the initiative. And we are very proud to be able to host it in Bucharest. As it was mentioned before, this initiative, it is political, but it's at the core of this initiative is economic cooperation. So what we have here is a pro-economic initiative, a pro-European initiative, a pro-transatlantic initiative. It has three major objectives. One is to contribute to the economic development of the region. So now we're talking about the 12 member countries of the initiative. The second is to increase real convergence among EU member states, so we should not be talking about any divisions. The aim of the initiative is to facilitate and deepen the cooperation between the countries in this area, the 3Cs area, and the EU members to the west. Hence, it is very natural to also have Germany taking part in the Bucharest summit. And the third objective is to strengthen the transatlantic ties. And there we have the USA represented in Bucharest, if I'm not mistaken, by the Secretary of Energy. Now, the business forum, which I mentioned before, is a new idea. It is the first edition that takes place in Bucharest. is the concrete and very practical expression of the main, let's say, direction of this initiative, which is deepening economic cooperation. Today, in this region, when we talk about economic cooperation, naturally we also talk about energy, energy security, infrastructure, digital cooperation, because we do live in a digital era. This forum represents indeed a great opportunity for Ukraine, but not only for Ukraine, also for Moldova, for example, also for Georgia, to be part of concrete projects that are being established as we speak, because as you all know, the forum started this morning. Unfortunately, I found out, and I was a little surprised, I have to admit, I found out on Friday morning that there is no Ukrainian official in Bucharest. However, as far as I know, there are representatives, or I hope there are representatives of the business environment, because also private companies have been invited to the economic forum, and of Ukrainian NGOs. If I'm not wrong, Ukrainian Prism is in Bucharest right now. When we talk about political initiatives, we all wonder and we all try to find what is the concrete result? What is the concrete project that comes out of such an initiative? Now, the Business Forum is one of the deliverables, because in Dubrovnik we started with a political initiative, and now we managed in Bucharest to gather companies from the 12 countries, also American companies, German companies, and from other EU member states, companies from Georgia, companies from Moldova. So this is one of the deliverables for Bucharest. There is another very important one, which I hope we will be able to see at the end of the 2 days event in Bucharest. And this is a short list of major interconnection projects, a short list that has been discussed for a while now between the 12 members of the initiative. And these interconnection projects refer specifically to the main three areas which lie at the core of the initiative. I mean the three priority fields, which is transport, energy, and digital. Now, we all know why this region is extremely attractive, not only to our transatlantic partners, to our Western European friends, but also to China, as you mentioned before. And this is about geostrategy, this is about geopolitics, this is about the security challenges that we face in this region, and I think Ukraine knows the best what I mean by this. So when it comes to this issue, transport, energy, and digital, they are deeply connected with the security aspects and to the security challenges that we face today. In terms of other concrete projects or deliverables, as you would like to call them, there will be another important thing on the agenda in Bucharest, which is the creation of a network of chambers of commerce from the participating states, which means yet another tool for deepening and ensuring working economic relations between the countries. And another issue that is on the agenda in Bucharest is the signing of a letter of intent for the creation of a 3Cs Initiative Investment Fund. So we are not only talking about projects in the economic area, transport, infrastructure, digital, as I mentioned before, but we are also talking about discussions on identifying financial sources for such projects. Because we very well know that, especially in Central and Eastern Europe, people are very creative, we have lots of ideas, we have lots of intentions, but it is always also about the money. We always need the money in order to implement our ideas. So this would be, in a nutshell, a short description of what is going on in Bucharest today. Of course, I have no foreseeing powers. These are the issues that are on the agenda. And maybe it would be very interesting to meet also after the summit and the business forum to discuss what has been achieved, what has not been achieved, what can be done further in order to work together for a better convergence between our countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Дуже вам дякую, пане посол.
As for me, the establishment of investment fund is the first indicator that the initiative is viable and operating. And as concerns deliverables, this would be really the implemented projects. According to us, we know that the Deputy Minister of Infrastructure should have been present at the summit. If Ukraine did not delegate any representative, this is very unfortunate. I would like, we know that the Speaker of Verkhovna Rada, Andrei Parubi, is personally interested in TSI initiative, and the idea of parliamentary assembly was proposed, and the opportunity of non-member countries of TSI participation in it also was voiced out. Could you, Mr. Kryvdyk, could you comment on this? So, I would like to start with the title of our discussion today, whether this 3 Cs initiative could be opportunity for practical European integration for Ukraine. Yes, it could be, but in our opinion, its topics of cooperation should be extended. Mr. Andrei Parubi many times said about Baltic Black Sea community as the shield of Europe, because Russia has been attacking Europe all the time with political weapons, and we see how social media are used by Russia, and how Russia tries to influence the political agenda in European countries, and this concerns not only the region of 3 Cs initiative, but in the first turn, TSI region is addressed. So this initiative is very good one, and Ukraine should cooperate as a neighbor of the TSI and as a potential member of the European Union, but the security issue, I think, should be more strictly more clearly outlined in the definition of the initiative. Energy sector issues, energy security and other types of security, they underlie the economic development. The economic issues may be not fully implemented because the security component has not been outlined in detail. As concerns Ukraine's participation in bilateral and multilateral formats, Ukrainian parliamentarians raised the issue of TSI. In 2017, Mr. Parubi had 6 meetings with the Speaker of Polish Parliament, and I hope that the same dynamics will be with Romanian Speaker of Parliament soon. The parliament is very important because it shapes the governmental strategy, it shapes the legislation and budget of the country. I also would like to mention the Speaker of Markiyan, senator in the US Parliament. He said that the never initiative could be sustainable if it is not supported by the parliament. So when the governmental official is changed, this should not result in the change in geopolitical course. So Kochtinsky, member of Polish Parliament, pronounced the initiative of Parliamentary Assembly on 18 July 2018. We support, we welcome his idea, and when Mr. Parubiev will have Ukraine-Lithuania assembly on the end of October, there will be also another meeting in Vilnius, and we suppose that Mr. Parubiev will voice out his support to this idea.
Thank you very much, Ostap, for your proactive position, and also for being here today to represent Ukrainian position. Unfortunately, we cannot get the opinion of Ukrainian ministers today. Thank you. So I now would like to give the floor to Tomasz, Bujko, representative of Embassy of the Republic of Poland in Ukraine. He represents Poland at this event. So the first question may be somewhat provocative. Please tell us, we see that Poland provides help to Ukraine in European integration, and it was before those historic dialogues that created some non-positive things, but about positive things as well. Poland continues cooperation, and it really contributes. It always be. So we believe that Three Seas initiative, this can be good for Ukraine, because for Ukrainian citizens, European integration, it lies in improving of infrastructure, and this project provides such things. So Poland should lobby more, but for Ukraine, but it doesn't happen. So first of all, I would like to thank you for invitation to this discussion, and I would like to bring the greetings from our embassy, and the thanks for trans-border cooperation. About the support of the participation of Ukraine in Three Seas initiative. First, Ukraine got invitation to the first summit of the Three Seas initiative in Dubrovnik. And first, we didn't know where the discussion will go, but now, and we should stress this, the initiatives of Three Seas, they should be adopted by all the countries. For example, if Poland invites Ukraine, it should be supported by everyone else. So all the countries should agree, not only one country. And we should remember about the sources of financing of all the projects that will be implemented in the framework of the Three Seas initiative. Mr. Ambassador, he said about the fund that should be created, and we understand this. But first of all, we count on the support of European budget. And unfortunately, countries that unfortunately are not the members of EU, they cannot be financed in such a volume. And these are the main why Ukraine cannot be a full-fledged member of the Three Seas initiative. But I would like to stress the Polish position. Poland is open for cooperation of the Three Seas initiative with other partners. And last year, we were joined by Donald Trump, and today we greet the initiative of Germany, who wants to cooperate with the 3 Cs. But now we do not see the reason to broaden the membership of the countries who are the members of the 3 Cs. We greet the mechanisms of cooperation with other countries. They can be observers or have other forms of communication in the framework of parliamentary assembly, but this cannot change the main aim of this project. Also, I would like to go back to the summit in Bucharest and Polish participation in the summit. 3 Cs initiative is one of the most important ways in foreign policy for Poland. So the representation of Poland at the summit shows this, and now in Bucharest, Andrzej Duda goes there, and it goes also there tomorrow. So Poland is represented at the highest level. Also, Poland is one of co-initiators of the project, and Magdalena Kuczynska was the initiator of the creation of Parliamentary Assembly and the Forum of Regions. Also, about more concrete projects, Poland, together with water coopers, created projects that can be implemented in the 3 Cs initiative framework. 160 projects concerning infrastructure, energy, and the cyber projects. For us, it is really important to establish priority among the projects. And at the end of the summit, we would like to see the list of priorities that can be implemented. So several words about the possible split. I do not see the 3 Cs initiative as a split, and Germany is interested in this, and the head of the Euro Commission also goes to the summit, and several Euro commissioners will be present at the summit. So this will be the mechanism in the framework of the EU, and it will strengthen the EU on the whole. Unfortunately, we see that 15 years after the countries joined EU, we see that the level of development of infrastructure in these countries, it differs from the development of Western nations, and we should create a mechanism in order to accelerate this development of infrastructure. And 3 Cs initiative is such a mechanism. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Tomasz. So I would like to greet among us Markiyan Lubkivsky, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Ukraine, and Ambassador to Croatia, 2006-2009, and he is here today as a commentator. So he has many ideas about the 3 Cs initiative, and I would like to give the floor to Mr. Markiyan, and we are glad to hear your ideas about this project.
Invitation, and first of all, to organizers, I will deliver my short remarks in Ukrainian for the better understanding of Ukrainian authorities. Чесно кажучи, декілька думок, які я хотів би сьогодні висловити.
First of all, I would like to say that non-participation of Ukraine in the Three Seas initiative is the grave and big mistake. I intentionally do not say about political, this is geopolitical mistake. And Ukraine misses the 3 summits of the initiative. And this is lack of the work of the ministries, and also it is sad that we do not have the representatives of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and once again, Ukrainian only civil activists and organizations promote such issues in Ukraine because they really care about foreign policy. And the Three Seas initiative should be regarded in Ukraine as a practical step of implementation of integration of Ukraine to EU and NATO to reach European standards. First of all, in those areas that were identified. This is energy sector, the sphere of digital infrastructure, and the transport sector. Unfortunately, today, Ukraine does not participate in any big infrastructure project. We do not develop inside the country. We do not have a drive to develop our infrastructure, and in Poland and Romania and other new members of the EU, they develop their infrastructure. So I believe that Ukraine should participate in this initiative, especially in the transport sphere, because Ukraine is at the first place regarding transit. Recently, there was a meeting of the ministers of infrastructure of Ukraine and Poland, and they discussed the construction of A4 Jędrzejów-Kurczowa road and road to Odessa with connection to Kiev, and this project could be the part of this initiative. Second project I would like to represent this is to bring the connections to European standards. I mean, those with the connection with Poland, Slovak Republic, and Hungary, and this should be developed in the framework of this initiative. If we look at the map, we will see that this project, it should have included, and Ukraine would speak with Moldova and Belarus to add to this geopolitical picture and to provide transport projects in cooperation with these countries, because connections from north to south, it goes through these countries, and this is in our national interests. If we are speaking about participation of mentioned Croatia and the representation of the interests of Ukraine in 2009, I would like to say that the meeting is attended by 9 presidents, 2 heads of parliament, and 1 prime minister, and the minister of foreign affairs. So let's look at the members. So the head of European Commission, Juncker, and Mr. Tomasz, and Germany may get the member status, and after summit in Warsaw, Europe is trying to influence on this project, because first it was identified maybe as transatlantic under the influence of the United States, and now the highest representative of the EU and the top officials from Germany, they participate in order to have European context of this project. So 11 projects will be represented by Croatia and the president attends of this country attends this meeting. So 3 energy projects, 1 digital communication, and 7 transport projects. The overall sum is 1,782,000,000. And Kirk terminal, this project is really interesting for Ukraine concerning diversification of energy. So the sum is 263 million, and also this is the national project of development of broadband communication networks. 101 million euros. This is about many settlements that will receive better communication in order to be better integrated. And this is a project in Croatia. Also, Rijeka port, the modernization of this large port, and also the construction of railway connection in the Rijeka region. So these are practical issues that will be solved by Croatia at the summit. And I don't believe that the position of the participants of this initiative is so rigid not to allow Ukraine to join, because this is our will be the step to integration for Ukraine. So today, those issues are discussed by the participants with the Russian Federation, so we should act promptly. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Klimkin, he should be in Bucharest. Maybe the Minister of Infrastructure, Mr. Omelian, he also should have been at this meeting. Thank you. Maybe I was speaking sharply, but I believe that the situation provides for this.
Давайте коментарі.
So please, you may ask questions or comments. If you have questions to Ambassador Turcanu, you may ask a question.
Yuri Manros, the Institute of Foreign Relations, as we know, for successful integration, the country should have inside the opportunities, possibilities, and also possibilities for external cooperations, multinationals and external institutions. They should have environment to enter Ukraine. If we look on Romania and Poland economies, we can see there favorable environment for foreign investors, which created good conditions for these countries to integrate successfully into the European space. What you can recommend to Ukraine? This is a question to Polish and Romanian speakers of today's meeting. What Ukraine can do to promote investment using your best practices so that Ukraine can integrate into Eurospace and international space. I also would like to ask a question about Russia's participation in the 3 Seas initiative. Whether there were such negotiations, and what are the positions of the countries, member countries, on this issue?
I'll start with the second question because the answer is very short. The 3 Seas initiative is an initiative where we have 12 EU member states. For the business forum that we have in Bucharest, we did have indeed an extensive list of representatives of countries which are not part of the initiative per se. And this list included Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, and some of the Western Balkan countries. Now, coming back to the recommendations, it's difficult to give recommendations because there is no one set recipe for all countries. You mentioned correctly, and I'm glad to hear it, that today Romania has an attractive investment environment. That is true. We have a functioning market economy. We're members of the EU and NATO. I have to say that this was not always the situation. We have gone through a very difficult and very long transition period with very complicated reforms in all areas. And you very well know that we share some heritage together. The past, let's say, 70 years have had a negative impact on our countries in this part of the world. So what we have been trying to do and succeeded after 1989 was to reform profoundly when it comes to economy, when it comes to justice, when it comes to social systems. Now, some people say that these reforms were made because of the EU. No. The EU set certain criteria, and we respected these criteria, but the reforms that have been done in Romania were done for the benefit of the country and of the people. Why is Romania's economy today attractive, or the investment environment, why is it attractive? Because we have had very good results when it comes to combating corruption, functioning justice system, transparency. All these criteria, let's say, are high on the list of any foreign investor. Without giving recommendations, I can say that we appreciate and we follow closely the reforms that have been done in Ukraine since 2014. And it is impressive the amount of work, the effort that has been put in these types of reforms. It is impressive how much positive change has been achieved in the past 4 years. And at the same time, we and our other European friends and people in Ukraine say that more is needed. Thank you.
Дякую, пан посол. Не залишив мені.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Left almost nothing for me to add. I would like to say that, in fact, the list of TSI members is complete and no other members are allowed, but we would be very glad to see various formats of cooperations with Ukraine and other countries. Thank you very much. We are glad to hear this. We would like to thank Mr. Ambassador for his participation in our event, and we wait for you. We wait to see you in our further events later. Are there other questions or comments? Please ask. No questions from the audiences for now. I have a question to Tatiana and also to Mr. Tomasz Bujko and Ostap Kryvdyk. We tried to research comprehensively the projects in which Ukraine potentially could be a stakeholder, but if we look onto the list of projects, the interconnectors with Romania, transport infrastructure projects with Poland, and also border crossing post development. This is some wish thinking of Ukraine. These projects already were discussed previously before the TSI initiative. Thank you for your question. I would like to note that all projects in the scope of TSI mentioned in our policy brief are key projects being developed in the scope of initiatives, they are not new. I do not know any project in the scope of this initiative which was drafted in 2015 when TSI was launched. The Verkhovna project was discussed as early as 1990s. With also the Gdańsk project and interconnector with Poland. I thought it could be also considered at the bilateral level. So we are talking about the possibility of deeper integration of more Ukraine's benefits so that Ukraine can benefit more. And we should do this. I would like to accent on the TSI value added. This is political support. This is value added of this initiative. Yes, all those projects were considered before, we know, but now 12 member countries of TSI support them. So this can facilitate and accelerate their implementation. If to develop, Mr. Tomasz says this, 1 + 1 now can be equal to 4 or 6, so the synergy will help this project to be implemented. If the interplay will be not efficient, this would deter the project's implementation. Are there any more questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Markiyan, before leaving and thanking for the participation, I would like to talk about this discussion. We are talking about cooperation, but we are very careful. The Polish colleague is saying you are not a member, we can just cooperate. The same concerns Romanian partner. Either we cooperate or we do not cooperate. This initiative should be placed in a very practical plane. We cannot discuss something which is not accessible for us. I do not have any claims. I am not blaming Polish or Romanian parties. I have some claims to about activities of our Foreign Affairs Minister of Ukraine. We should work more on this initiative. Yes, we should bring our border crossing points to better condition, physical condition like those in Poland and Romania. Thank you for your attention. I think that the next discussion will be more subject oriented, and we will be talking about involvement of Ukraine, at least in the status of observer in this initiative. Thank you, Mr. Markiyan, Lubkivsky, and thank you our honorable speakers for having found the opportunity to come on the Monday morning to our event and tell us your opinions. I wish to everyone a nice day today and a nice week.